whenever a person hear constructive criticism and it feel the same way, they naturally don't want to hear it because it feels just like that abusive language that I heard when I was young.
Our next question, which kind of goes at the ego, but also kind of is, I'll even call it the underlining or overlaying of the ego, right? Constructive criticism, right? This is something that it's hard, it's tough, right? Constructive criticism can feel as a defense mechanism, can feel as a kind of a shade tactic, you know what I mean? And it's hard to differentiate whether to accept it or disregard it, right? So let's speak on constructive criticism on why it can potentially, I'll even say potentially, maybe not potentially, but why it can bother you. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, why it can bother you?
Correct. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think that I think it's funny that, and not funny in a humorous way, but definitely funny that you mentioned this thing about constructive criticism, because I just made a video about that yesterday.
Yeah.
And the thing is that my perspective about constructive criticism and how it works in people's lives, and whether it's a plus in your life or whether it's a negative in some people's lives, where you find a lot of people in the world today that do not like to hear correction. Not true, not like true, unadulterated type of correction. It kind of wants you to puff it up and highlight all of their pluses, but never speak nothing about, the other side.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so my position on that is because the world doesn't promote loving the truth. The system of this world doesn't promote loving the truth. Like
that.
Making the truth like so valuable, so significant that when someone speaks other than the truth, that it is condemned. So the world doesn't promote that. The world promotes basically anything other than that.
Spin.
And because of that, people, the average person has been programmed to dislike it. And they have all these different like responses. They've been given a program of responses to give, to think, then give, to verbalize whenever someone speaks truth. And it don't even have to be constructive criticism. So it can just be truth in a lot of ways. And people tend to, they love it as long as that truth isn't pointed at them. I tell people all the time, you love the way I think. You love my position until the way I think is pointed at you. Ooh. Then there's a problem. Then I don't know what I'm talking about. You feel what I'm saying? And so I think, so when it comes to a personal thing and why a person, again, can find it offensive, again, it's like, for me, one of the things that helped me change my response to life is that I wanted to change. I wanted to change. Like, I'm saying so bad to where I wasn't concerned about making parole. I didn't want to make parole because I knew I hadn't changed enough to deal with life any differently than I had been.
Okay.
You feel what I'm saying? So I don't want to make parole. So this is how much I want to change. So until a person, like every time they say, until a person really want it bad as they want to breathe, like I want to change because my life is dependent on it. My happiness is dependent on it. When people start connecting all that to they need to change, then will constructive criticism, although it may shatter that ego a little bit.
Yeah.
Although it's gonna, damn, anybody never told me that before.
Yeah.
Although it may rock you a little bit, you're gonna accept it because you want to be better. You're gonna hear it, you're gonna think about it. You may ask other people, do they see the same thing? But you want to be better. So until an individual reach a point of really truly wanting to be better themselves, the truth in the form of constructive criticism is always going to hurt. It's always going to come out as an attack or a weapon or something of that extent. So I think that is really the ultimate reason why individuals are harmed by constructive criticism. But another one just came across my mind, which I thank the Most High, which is that an individual may have been abused with a certain language as a child, right? The language, it was spoken like it was truth, but it really wasn't truth. But because of the way it felt, whenever a person hear constructive criticism and it feel the same way, they naturally don't want to hear it because it feels just like that abusive language that I heard when I was young.
A trigger.
Yeah, so
a trigger,
anything that make me feel a certain way, I don't want it.
Yeah.
You know, and like I've learned, I've read, I've heard that there's really no right time to speak the truth. A lot of time, because you know, being in a relationship, you try to look for a good time to to speak that truth, baby. It just don't. It ain't no good time, you know.
Yeah.
It's, you know, it might be some better times than others, but for the most part, you know, it's gonna ruffle some things.
So go ahead, Jay.
All right. So it sounds to me, and you can tell me if I'm misconstruing what you're saying, but it sounds to me like what you were saying is we whether because of the communication method or because of just who we are as people, we're not able to recognize constructive criticism as a form of love. Is that what you're saying?
That's partially correct, but not necessarily who we are as people per se. It's how we've been programmed to love lies versus the truth.
I was gonna add to that. Yeah. Go
we've
ahead.
been programmed to love lies versus the truth, and our mode of dealing with each other hasn't been one. We wasn't cultivated in like in homes and things to just be honest with each other. Like, you know, hey, your breath stink. Hey, your pants unzipped. Hey, you know what I'm saying? You got some food in your tooth. We haven't really been brought up to be honest about stuff like that. So we'll see it and won't even say nothing about it sometimes because we don't want to embarrass them. Sometimes people don't speak truth just for the sake of for the friendship, just for the sake of not wanting to start an argument. You know what I'm saying? And so they will allow a person to exist in a certain way.
I think that, you know, constructive criticism, in my opinion, is an opinion, right? Based off of what you view someone else. But I think today, you know, it has stalled communication to where constructive criticism has become combative, right? To a point where it's like you said, if you say like, yo, I don't like what you got on right now, right? It's a defense mechanism. It can potentially be a trigger. Now, we all come across that sometimes the way someone says something to you, what they say to you, yes, can be a trigger. Not saying that it's rude and disrespectful, but if you're, and we'll get on to the relationship and partners in a second, but if you're with a good friend, your partner, person you trust, and you know and you value their constructive criticism, their opinion, there's a positive route to where that's coming from, right? But I think we have been conditioned by social media, the news, the media, people to combat opinions, right? To as a defense mechanism to not understand the truth as you spoke, right? And I think, am I right there? What you're trying to say, to where I feel like people are trying to fight the truth, and we're going in circles around this truth, right? To the fact that we're telling each other's lies to try to get through not understanding the truth. Is that kind of what you're feeling there?
Well, not exactly.
Okay.
So like even with, like in regards to what you just was speaking about, it's not necessarily that a person that we've been made to just fight it, but we have been cultivated in a system that mainly cultivates an emotional response.
Okay.
It doesn't feed us on a mental, like, educational level. The way the system is made, it don't communicate with us like that. It don't communicate with your mind. It communicates with the way you feel.
Okay.
It communicates with what you desire.
Okay.
It communicates with your fears. You feel what I'm saying? It communicates with your anger.
Mm-hmm.
So when you think about it from that position, and you have a people that has come up in homes where a lot of fathers not there, that mental peace is not there, that mental approach of dealing with problems and things like that is not there. So you have an individual that, when under pressure, deals with things from an emotional position, which I then train you up to deal with things from that same position. So whenever I feel a certain way, it makes me respond a certain way.
Okay.
Versus when I feel something, I check it with my mental and stay on top of my feelings with my mental to a point to where my feelings don't even move me like that.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
So we have a system where we've been emotionally stimulated, emotionally heightened, to the point to where whenever people say certain things, it make you feel a certain way. So a certain a counter response happen as a means or as a way of causing you to feel the way they feel.
Okay.
So
That's a good point. Okay, that's a good point.